Hello, everyone, and welcome to Learn English with Profi Jaimi. Today, we're diving into the incredible story of one of the most iconic bands in history, the Beatles. This is a tale of four young men from Liverpool who changed the world of music forever. Through their journey, you'll learn about their formation, key members, evolution, and how their legacy continues to inspire millions around the globe. This video is perfect for anyone who loves music, history, or simply wants to improve their English in a fun and engaging way. As we explore the lives of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, you'll pick up new vocabulary, practice listening skills, and learn about the cultural impact of their music. So, whether you're a Beatles fan or just curious about their story, stay with us till the end to uncover how this legendary band rose to fame and left an unforgettable mark on the world. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more fascinating stories and English lessons. Let's get started. Part 1. The formation of the Beatles. The story of the Beatles begins in Liverpool, a port city in northwest England, in the late 1950s. At the time, Liverpool was a vibrant hub of music and culture, heavily influenced by the skiffle craze, a genre blending folk, jazz, and blues that was sweeping across Britain. It was in this environment that a young John Lennon, just 16 years old, formed a skiffle group called the Quarrymen in 1956. Named after Quarry Bank High School, where John was a student, the band was a casual project for John and his friends, playing at local events and parties. Everything changed on July 6, 1957, when John met Paul McCartney at a church fete in Woolton. Paul, only 15 at the time, impressed John with his ability to play and tune a guitar, as well as his knowledge of rock and roll hits. Recognizing Paul's talent, John invited him to join the Quarrymen. The two quickly formed a close bond, united by their shared love of music and ambition to create something bigger than themselves. A year later, Paul introduced John to George Harrison, a 14-year-old guitarist with remarkable skill. Though John initially thought George was too young to join the band, he was won over after hearing George play. By 1958, George had become a permanent member of the Quarrymen, solidifying the core trio of John, Paul, and George. Together, they began to transition from skiffle to rock and roll, drawing inspiration from American artists like Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, and Little Richard. The band went through several name changes during this period, including Johnny and the Moondogs and the Silver Beatles, before finally settling on the Beatles in 1960. The name was a playful nod to Buddy Holly's band, the Crickets, combined with the word beat, reflecting their love of beat music. Around this time, the band also added two new members, Stuart Sutcliffe, a talented artist and friend of John's, on bass guitar, and Pete Best, a drummer from Liverpool, to complete the lineup. The Beatles' early years were marked by hard work and determination. They honed their craft by performing in small clubs and pubs around Liverpool, most notably at the Cavern Club, which became their home base. However, their big break came when they were invited to play a series of residencies in Hamburg, Germany, between 1960 and 1962. These grueling performances, often lasting hours each night, forced the band to tighten their sound and develop their stage presence. It was in Hamburg that the Beatles truly began to find their identity as a band. Despite their growing success, the lineup underwent significant changes during this period. Stuart Sutcliffe, who had always been more passionate about art than music, decided to leave the band in 1961 to focus on his painting. Paul McCartney took over as the bassist, a role he initially resisted but eventually mastered. Then, in 1962, Pete Best was replaced by Ringo Starr, a drummer from another Liverpool band, Rory Storm and the Hurricanes. Ringo's steady rhythm and affable personality made him the perfect fit, and with his addition, the classic Beatles lineup was complete. By the end of 1962, the Beatles had signed a recording contract with EMI, thanks to their manager Brian Epstein, and began working with producer George Martin. Their first single, Love Me Do, was released that October, marking the beginning of their meteoric rise to fame. Little did they know, they were about to change the world. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to Learn English with Profi Jaimi. By subscribing, you'll stay updated with our latest videos and never miss out on engaging content. Plus, check out the description below for a link to download a copy of the story transcript and a worksheet to practice the vocabulary and grammar from the story. Your support helps us create more great content for you to enjoy. Thank you for watching. And now back to the story. Part 2. The Rise to Fame. While their musical talent was undeniable, the Beatles needed guidance to navigate the complexities of the music industry. That guidance came in the form of Brian Epstein, a local record store manager who became their manager in 1961. Epstein saw potential in the band that others had overlooked. He polished their image, replacing their leather jackets with tailored suits and teaching them how to present themselves professionally. Epstein's belief in the Beatles was unwavering, and he worked tirelessly to secure them a recording contract. His efforts paid off when the band auditioned for George Martin, a producer at EMI's Parlophone label. Martin was initially skeptical of their raw talent, but was impressed by their charisma and potential. He signed them to a recording contract in 1962, marking the beginning of a legendary partnership. Under George Martin's guidance, the Beatles began to shape their sound in the studio. Martin's classical training and innovative approach to production complemented the band's creativity, allowing them to experiment with new techniques and arrangements. Their first single, Love Me Do, released in October 1962, was a modest success, reaching number 17 on the UK charts. But it was their follow-up single, Please Please Me, released in January 1963, that truly launched their career. The song reached number 1 on several UK charts, and its success marked the beginning of what would soon be called Beatlemania. By 1963, the Beatles had become a sensation in the UK. Their infectious energy, catchy melodies, and charming personalities captivated audiences of all ages. Concerts were filled with screaming fans, and their records flew off the shelves. The term Beatlemania was coined to describe the frenzy surrounding the band, and it quickly became a global phenomenon. The Beatles were no longer just a band. They were a cultural movement, reshaping the music industry and inspiring a generation. The rise of the Beatles was a combination of talent, timing, and the right people coming together at the right moment. From their formative years in Hamburg to their breakthrough hits, every step of their journey contributed to their eventual success. Little did they know, this was only the beginning of a legacy that would endure for decades to come. Part 3. The members, their roles and personalities. The Beatles were more than just a band. They were a unique combination of 4 distinct personalities, each contributing their own talents and quirks to create something extraordinary. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr were not only musicians, but also individuals who brought their own strengths, weaknesses, and charisma to the group. Together, they formed a dynamic that resonated with millions of fans worldwide. Let's take a closer look at each member and their role in the band. John Lennon, the rebellious leader. John Lennon was often seen as the leader of the Beatles, not just because he founded the band, but also because of his strong personality and vision. Known for his rebellious nature and sharp wit, John was the driving force behind the group's early days. He was outspoken, unafraid to challenge norms, and had a knack for turning his thoughts into powerful lyrics. Songs like Help and Strawberry Fields Forever reflect his introspective and often raw approach to songwriting. John's partnership with Paul McCartney was the backbone of the Beatles' success. Together, they formed one of the most celebrated songwriting duos in music history. While Paul brought melody and structure, John contributed depth and experimentation. Their collaboration was a perfect blend of creativity and discipline, resulting in timeless hits like Hey Jude, Let It Be, and A Hard Day's Night. Beyond music, John was known for his humor and intelligence. He often used his platform to express his views on peace, love, and social justice. After the Beatles, he became a prominent activist, using his music and voice to advocate for change. Songs like Imagine and Give Peace a Chance remain anthems for peace and equality, cementing John's legacy as not just a musician but also a cultural icon. Paul McCartney, the melodic genius. Paul McCartney was the heart of the Beatles, bringing a sense of melody and charm that captivated audiences. Often referred to as the cute Beatle, Paul had a natural ability to connect with fans, both on and off the stage. His boyish good looks and warm personality made him a favorite among many, but it was his musical talent that truly set him apart. As a songwriter, Paul had an extraordinary gift for crafting unforgettable melodies. Songs like Yesterday, Hey Jude, and Let It Be showcase his ability to blend simplicity with emotional depth. His versatility as a musician was also remarkable. He played bass, guitar, piano, and even drums when needed. Paul's bass lines, in particular, became a defining feature of the Beatles' sound, adding a rhythmic and melodic foundation to their music. Paul was also instrumental in shaping the band's image. Alongside Brian Epstein, he helped steer the Beatles toward a more polished and professional look, trading their leather jackets for tailored suits. His ambition and work ethic were unmatched, often pushing the band to explore new musical territories. Even after the Beatles, Paul continued to thrive as a solo artist, proving that his talent and creativity were boundless. George Harrison, the quiet innovator. George Harrison, often referred to as the Quiet Beatle, was the band's lead guitarist and a vital contributor to their sound. While John and Paul dominated the spotlight, George's influence grew steadily over the years. His interest in Indian music and spirituality brought a unique dimension to the Beatles' music, introducing instruments like the sitar and inspiring songs like Within You, Without You, and The Inner Light. George's songwriting skills also blossomed during his time with the Beatles. Though he initially struggled to get his songs recognized, he eventually earned his place as a talented composer. Tracks like Here Comes the Sun, Something, and While My Guitar Gently Weeps are now considered some of the band's finest works. His ability to blend introspection with melody made him a standout songwriter in his own right. Beyond music, George was deeply spiritual, exploring Eastern philosophies and practices that influenced both his life and work. His humility and quiet demeanor often contrasted with the larger-than-life personalities of John and Paul, but his contributions were no less significant. After the Beatles, George continued to explore his musical and spiritual interests, leaving behind a legacy of innovation and introspection. Ringo Starr, the heartbeat of the band. Ringo Starr, the last to join the Beatles, brought stability and humor to the group. As the drummer, Ringo's role was often understated, but his contributions were essential. His distinctive drumming style, characterized by its simplicity and precision, provided the backbone for countless Beatles hits. Songs like Ticket to Ride and Come Together showcase his ability to enhance the music without overpowering it. Ringo's personality also played a key role in the band's dynamic. Known for his easygoing nature and quick wit, he was often the glue that held the group together during tense moments. His humor and humility made him relatable to fans, earning him the title of the everyman of the band. Ringo also took on occasional vocal duties, delivering memorable performances on tracks like With a Little Help from My Friends and Yellow Submarine. Despite being overshadowed by the songwriting prowess of John, Paul, and George, Ringo's presence was indispensable. His drumming and personality added a unique flavor to the Beatles' music, making him an integral part of their success. After the band's breakup, Ringo enjoyed a successful solo career and became a beloved figure in the music world, proving that his talent and charm extended far beyond his role as a drummer. The Beatles' magic lay in the unique combination of John Lennon's rebellious spirit, Paul McCartney's melodic genius, George Harrison's quiet innovation, and Ringo Starr's steady heartbeat. Each member brought something special to the table, creating a dynamic that was greater than the sum of its parts. Together, they not only revolutionized music, but also left an indelible mark on culture and society. Their individual personalities and talents continue to inspire generations, reminding us why the Beatles remain one of the most beloved bands in history. Part 4. The Beatles' Evolution and Changes. As the Beatles' fame grew, so did their music. What began as catchy pop hits like She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand evolved into something far more complex and experimental. Albums like Rubber Soul, 1965, and Revolver, 1966, marked a turning point in their career. These records showcased the band's willingness to push boundaries, incorporating new instruments like the sitar, tabla, and mellotron, as well as innovative studio techniques such as tape loops and backward recording. Songs like Norwegian Wood and Tomorrow Never Knows reflected their growing interest in Eastern spirituality and avant-garde sounds. The pinnacle of their experimentation came with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, 1967, a groundbreaking album that redefined what a pop record could be. With its elaborate production, orchestral arrangements, and conceptual framework, Sgt. Pepper was hailed as a masterpiece and cemented the Beatles' status as pioneers of modern music. Later albums like The White Album, 1968, and Abbey Road, 1969, further demonstrated their versatility, blending genres ranging from rock and blues to folk and classical. However, this period of creative growth was also marked by internal tensions. John Lennon and Paul McCartney, once inseparable collaborators, began to drift apart. Their creative differences became more pronounced, with John favoring raw, introspective songs and Paul leaning toward polished, melodic compositions. George Harrison, too, grew frustrated with his limited songwriting opportunities, despite producing gems like While My Guitar Gently Weeps and Here Comes the Sun. Even Ringo Starr felt the strain, briefly leaving the band during the tumultuous White Album sessions before being persuaded to return. External factors also played a role in the band's changing dynamic. John's relationship with Yoko Ono, which began in 1966, introduced a new influence into the group. Yoko's presence in the studio and her avant-garde ideas often clashed with the band's established workflow, creating additional friction. Meanwhile, the death of their manager, Brian Epstein, in 1967 left a void that the band struggled to fill. Epstein had been a stabilizing force, and without him, the Beatles found it increasingly difficult to navigate their personal and professional differences. Despite these challenges, the Beatles continued to produce extraordinary music. But as the 1960s came to a close, it became clear that the band's days were numbered. The pressures of fame, creative disagreements, and individual pursuits were pulling them in different directions, setting the stage for their eventual breakup. Part 5. The Breakup and Legacy. By 1970, the Beatles were no more. The band's dissolution was the result of years of growing tensions and diverging interests. John Lennon had effectively left the group in 1969, focusing on his solo career and activism with Yoko Ono. Paul McCartney, frustrated with the band's inability to move forward, announced his departure in April 1970, marking the official end of the Beatles. The breakup was met with shock and sadness by fans worldwide, but it also opened the door for the members to explore new creative avenues. Each member went on to achieve success in their solo careers. John Lennon became a symbol of peace and activism, releasing iconic songs like Imagine and Give Peace a Chance. His music and message resonated deeply with a generation seeking change. Paul McCartney formed the band Wings and continued to produce hits like Band on the Run and Maybe I'm Amazed, solidifying his reputation as one of the greatest songwriters of all time. George Harrison found his voice as a solo artist, releasing the critically acclaimed album All Things Must Pass and organizing the groundbreaking concert for Bangladesh, one of the first major benefit concerts in history. Ringo Starr also enjoyed a successful solo career, with hits like Photograph and It Don't Come Easy, which showcased his talent and charm. Together and individually, the Beatles left an indelible mark on the world of music and continue to inspire generations of artists and fans alike. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, be sure to check out our next video for more engaging content. Don't forget to subscribe to Learn English with Profi Jaimi so you never miss out on new stories and helpful English learning tips. See you in the next video.